The town of al-Baghdadi falling into the hands of ISIS as the Iraqi army evaporates.
This as the terror group gains ground in Anbar province, some predicting a collapse of the area within hours.
ISIS forces was attacking Mosul.
Thousands of civilians, religious minorities fleeing an onslaught of violence.
The explosions start to be higher.
We watch horrific images of Christians being beheaded, slaughtered, their throats slit.
When they took me from the highway by gun and they put in my eyes and chain for 9 days.
ISIS claims its militants are still on the streets of Tikrit.
ISIS have crucified a man in Syria.
Still there's this suspension of belief that that would ever come here.
They hit Christian especially. We don't know why.
These are not unfamiliar images. We hear about violence against Christians in other parts of the world, especially countries like Iraq. And Jesus warned us that this would happen. If they persecuted me, he said, they will also persecute you. And yet the kind of violence that Christians experience in Iraq is practically unheard of here in the West. If you claim to belong to Jesus, then the people you'll meet in this series are your family. They're your parents, your brothers, your sisters. Why on earth are they willing to endure such sacrifice for the sake of Jesus? What's so great about Jesus that makes their sacrifice worth it?
When the N gets painted on your house in Mosul, then you're marked. N stands for the word Nasara. It's the Arabic word meaning Nazarene. It's the way Christians are identified in the Quran. So ISIS was using this to mark the Christians, to drive them out of Mosul. We went to Iraq to be with them, to see how we could help, to understand their stories. One brother we met that way was Nassim.
أنا سيد نسيم سمير متي من سكان نينوى.
My name is Nassim Samir Mati, and I am from Nineveh, Mosul. Married to Anwar and have 2 children, a boy and a girl, Nancy and Norman. I owned a grocery store, and my wife is a housewife. We lived a normal life of work in the store and other work at home.
ISIS forces, they was attacking Mosul, and there was a big fight between them and the Iraqi army for 5 days.
Kareem is a pastor from Mosul. He was driven out along with everyone else, so he himself was a victim of the violence. But he's a pastor, and he's continued to shepherd his church after being driven out.
The 5th day, the Iraqi army left everything and ran away.
When the army fled, there were no authorities left in the city. Police joined ISIS or laid down their weapons as well. With no one to resist them, ISIS was able to come in and purge the city of everyone who disagreed with them. But Christians were especially targeted, either killed or driven out.
The ISIS come in the night, about 3 or 4 a.m. A lot of bombing and shooting.
They took over our town. They wrote none for Nasrani over my house and my store as a sign that we are Christians.
Just like the Nazis marked the property of Jews, Christian homes in Mosul have been marked with this red symbol. It's the Arabic letter N for Nasara, an early Islamic term for Christians.
And they told them, either you pay tax, or either like you donate, or like you give us like one of your daughters, like or girls for the jihad, or you turn to Islam.
There's no one caring what's happening. They kill people, they kidnap, they rape people, and no one cares. Our government don't care.
I've seen a few videos of the ISIS attacks because I wanted to actually get to know about what's happening, and it was kind of a shock because I didn't know it was that bad.
The Islamic State, or ISIS, stormed into Iraq's second largest city, Mosul, last summer and took control. From there, it pushed into the neighboring villages and towns across this region, known as the Nineveh Plain.
It's not an idle threat. It's real. They release footage of them killing them. Tell them, you're next.
Then we took our things, only clothes, and then we flee to this place.
Okay, when the Christians were driven out, and this is tens of thousands of people, it's 100 degrees, they begin this journey with nothing but the clothes on their back. They've lost all their possessions, all their money, and they're walking. And you think of the families, children, the elderly. They begin this journey walking in the heat and the difficulty. We found them in the city of Erbil and surrounding areas, sleeping in parks on the side of the road, coming to churches, really anywhere people could go, hungry, thirsty, and the threat of ISIS was very much at hand.
Thousands of them are everywhere. People were laying down in the streets. People everywhere in the city, in the parks. They were longing for a roof just to stay under it. They're longing for food, to eat and to water to drink because they had no money, nothing.
When the Bible says we present our bodies a living sacrifice, that's something great to read. I mean, we read it, but I see they were actually doing it.
These people, these Christians, they're our family. So when we saw them in this situation, we started to provide them with food, clothing, shelter. We brought them supplies who were donated to the Voice of the Martyrs and prepared by volunteers at our ministry. As I met with the people and as I provided them with aid, the thought kept going through my mind. Each of them had a choice. They could have kept their future, their homes, all their possessions, but they chose to sacrifice them instead of denying Christ.
This life that I have, it's not anymore belong to me. It's belong to Christ, belong to Jesus. I have given all my life to Him, and He's using me in incredible ways. So really, when I think about it, even in these days when I'm facing difficulties, when I get caught by police, nothing is affecting me, nothing can stop me from what I'm doing, because I know that He's protecting me.
Well, I used to be a pastor in my church in Mosul, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking care of my church members, and we are doing refugee work, relief to the displaced people. There is major need for places to live. There are some people live in unfinished buildings, unfinished houses, without windows, without doors.
When people fled to Erbil and other places, they were on the ground, they were in parks, they were in church meeting halls, they were anywhere. So as soon as we could, we started putting them in partially constructed buildings, people's homes, churches, really anywhere we could to give them some shelter, and they were packed. Everything you can imagine, from an awning to a fellowship hall, completely full of people, just to get them out of the sun, just to get them a place to sleep at night.
And this is the day God has given us to work and to help and to reach the people out for Jesus Christ and tell them there is a God who loves you and cares for you and will never forsake you.
There was a desperation for survival. But even more for that, I saw a hunger for God, people reaching out to Him.
The people are open for Jesus. When you talk with anyone about Jesus now, share the gospel with them, you can see a response. Before that, the people are busy with their life, but now they are coming by themselves to the church. And they are asking for prayer, they are asking for help, they are asking to know Jesus better.
There's something true about God. People often draw closer to God during times of need than in times of blessing. When God brought the Israelites into the desert for 40 years, He told them, when you get to the promised land, you will forget me. In the suffering of our persecuted family, we see once again many people drawing closer to God. After all, where else is there to turn?
People are coming to Christ, even from non-Christian backgrounds.
He himself decided to leave the heaven and to be here on earth and to be as a Jesus Christ, incarnated in Jesus Christ, willingly, and to be here and to the way of the cross, and so to give salvation to everybody. So I would say, like, willingly, I'm staying here. I believe God has called me here to be in Iraq, and I believe at the same time I am called to suffer with the Christ.
If I die, I die for Christ. Death is a gain. We finish from the suffering of this world. That's the real faith. It goes back to see, do I honestly believe that there is heaven? Do I honestly believe that Christ is alive, waiting for me?
But I think it's important to note the difference between a sacrifice and a loss. If something is lost, it's just completely gone. But I think whenever you talk about sacrifice, the word sacrifice implies that you're actually gaining something.
You know, we experience here in this 6 months too many of God's promises. Like He's not letting us lost. He's not gonna let us be hungry or in need.
And so I think that we are encouraged to be able to sacrifice, to willingly give up something valuable, to willingly give up our own lives with the expectation, the promise that we gain Christ, and that's everything.
God always opens doors, even if we do not see Him. He sends people our way and tells them we are in need. Even if we do not see Him, He sends help.
And He's taking care of every single small thing in their life.
We left our homes having nothing, and we lost everything. But we did not lose our faith in Christ Jesus.
In the midst of all the suffering, we've seen that God's doing a wonderful thing. People are open to the gospel like never before. Those of us in the Frontier Missions community, Frontier missionaries, who've been working in the region for decades and studying it all along since the advent of Islam, we've never seen an openness to the gospel like there is right now among the Muslims.
To tell you the truth, it is something really beautiful. It is something really enjoyable, like you enjoy to suffer with Christ. You enjoy like you are not a nominal Christian. You enjoy you are not Christian by name. You're not Christian by identification card. You're Christian by faith. You're Christian by behaviors. You're Christian by words. You're Christian by everything. And this is the beauty of being, a Christian.
Did you consider sacrifice to be part of the deal when you decided to follow Jesus? Is this the life we signed up for? Paul said that he presented himself a living sacrifice for the sake of the gospel. Would they paint the inn on your house, your apartment, your dorm room? Would you say, I am in?